And we're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Foreteller ForCast Top 5. Adam, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm looking forward to talking about some of the best Kickstarters coming out this week and this month, and honestly, there's some pretty good stuff in here.
Indeed, I could not agree more. Let's go ahead and roll into our number 5 pick, and it's unfortunate that our fellow audio engineer AJ isn't here because my number 5 is Ronin. Welcome to Ronin, a rules-light tabletop RPG set in the mythical samurai-inspired world. Based on the Morkborg system, Ronin is a game of honor, combat, and adventure in a world ravaged by an eternal eclipse and overrun by supernatural creatures known as yokai. Players take on the roles of forgotten Ronin, shinobi, onmyoji, and more as they seek to restore their honor, and defeat the forces of darkness.
Yeah, that looks like a slammin' game, and honestly, I'm really digging the way that those character sheets look. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Morkborg system, it is a very rules-light system. It's a lot of fun because you can actually compete inside of the narrative lots of different ways, but expect to die a lot. It's kind of the point of the game. Don't get too offended if your GM does decide to kill you. It is 100% just all grit, dark fantasy. It is a wonderful system, and I think that if they followed the design cues and prompts that Morkborg has inside of their book, and for those of you who haven't seen the inside of a Morkborg book, go look at it because it's super unique.
Yeah, the Ronin book is beautiful. At the moment, they have 6 days left as recording this. And they have just over 1,000 backers, and they have far exceeded their goal of $5,000 with $58,000 and about $500 and change.
Yeah, and even if you do miss the Kickstarter, please reach out to the guys, because a lot of the time with these Kickstarters, what people don't realize is we are real humans that are running those things.
No, don't tell them that.
Yeah, right. But you can actually reach out after the fact. Just because the Kickstarter ended, that is Kickstarter's limitation. That actually has nothing to do with the manufacturer. They actually are able to take you on as an additional backer, or potentially even just add you to their pre-order list.
It turns out they really want to sell their game.
It turns out that is true. And in past, endeavors, when I've reached out to people that the Kickstarter had just passed or something like that, a lot of the time you don't get the Kickstarter reward because that would be unfair to the other people. I just wanted to remind everybody that it just because the game came out on Kickstarter doesn't mean that there's not going to be another print or that you can't get a copy. And man, does this thing look like a slammer, so I wouldn't want to miss out.
Speaking of slammers, have you seen or read The Odyssey?
I have read The Odyssey in its classical form. It was quite a read.
And we know our knower of many no-mans, Polysemous.
That's right.
Similarly named, we have Polysemous. It's a chaotic competitive adventure board game where players find themselves in the role of a prisoner, with the planes, the council, and other prisoners against them. Tear through your obstacles and emerge more powerful than ever. Polysemous has a traditional board game core rules set. So on each player's turn, they roll a movement dice and move around the amount rolled. This is only mandatory action each turn. In addition, the players may experience events, use items, bribe the council, attack other players, exploit their blessings, and much, much more. The art on this one does look fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think that I'm really into these kind of low to the ground kind of adventure games. It really does have kind of more of a classic board game feel from what I'm seeing. I think that the way that the cards are laid out is just wonderful. They've kind of gone for that really iconographic kind of style. You get a lot of really great components inside of this game. And for those of you guys who are out there checking out the Kickstarter, it's actually an Australian company, which is really cool to see. You don't get a lot of Australian companies coming out and entering the board game universe. So I'm super happy that that's going on. It looks like they even actually have a pledge that if you're in Perth, Western Australia, you can do pickup only, which is actually really cool.
These guys have plenty of time left on their Kickstarter. It just launched a couple days ago. 26 days left. About $1,400 backed out of a pledge goal of about $17,000. So they're on their way with only a couple days in. 2 to 6 players with about 1 to 3 hours playtime from ages 13 up. A lot of times here at Foreteller, we work with games mainly that are going to take you hours to get through. It's going to take you, you're going to be playing in sessions over the course of, hundreds of hours potentially.
And a lot of the reason why the ForCast is a special place is because we get to spotlight some of those games that we just can't work with. We are big board gamers, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But the fact is that we don't get to talk about a lot of the really cool stuff that we get to do on the outside of our story and narrative games. But the Polysemous adventure really does look awesome. It's one of those ones where you're going to sit down, you're going to be able to tackle it in a night. It's not going to be one of those giant narrative combat games or something like that. It's I would imagine it's probably more similar to the play session of something like Spirit Island.
Yeah, Spirit Island, and it is a competitive game, so even something along the lines of, I think it's Ascension. It's a deck builder, completely different type of game, but you're going to sit down for a bit, play with your friends, see who wins, kind of thing. And that's something that my group would definitely, especially up to 6 players. You don't see too many games that can support that many. Usually it caps out at 4, but a competitive game up to 6 players. We recently played Everdell with the Rivertide. I think, their expansion, that it gives you up to 9 players. So that's also a really good thing. But moving on to our number 3 spot. We talked about a lot of players. Let's talk about a few players. A 1v1 game called the Spearsmen. An entirely sustainably sourced teak wood board straight from India, cut down into the shape of a star that has been engraved into the top layer. If you've ever played a game called Quarto from Gigamic, they make a bunch of really nice wood-carved board games and board game pieces. It looks very similar to that. Again, the Spearsman, it's a board game that exudes elegance and sophistication, crafted from the finest teakwood India has to offer. Is both a piece of art and a delightful challenge to play. Spearsman is also eco-friendly since it's made from genuine teakwood from India and is treated with natural oil. We're happy to share Spearsman with the world via Kickstarter campaign and can't wait to share it with you. I love simple, easy to pick up, hard to master games like the Gigamic folks. Their games are fantastic. Quarto specifically. And Spearsman looks right up that alley for me. The board looks beautiful.
Yeah, and I think, the price point is actually pretty right. If there's anybody out there that maybe doesn't enjoy these kind of games, me in particular, I tend to stray away from these sort of games, but I will say that the craftsmanship on this one does look fantastic, and it almost has like a Moncala meets checkers kind of feel.
Indeed.
Very cool, very slick, very elegant. And if you have a board game friend who is into these really classy looking board games, this is something that you could pick up before gifting season, and it would probably come in around that time. And if you're looking for somebody that may be hard to shop for, or is a elite board gamer and they have every board game under the sun, this is actually something that I think that I would appreciate even receiving as a gift, just because it is so unique.
It's a work of art, truly. I love just the carvings on all of these, and they have a really good video tutorial on how to play it as well. And I watched it just before this. It looks fantastic, and I might even pick up this one myself.
Yeah, no, I'm actually entering the Kickstarter right now. But yeah, it's a beautifully crafted game, and good shout, Nate. That's a good one.
They have plenty of time left as well. 25 days left with about 800 out of their goal of about 2,000. So plenty of time left. Go ahead and back this one, guys. I'll probably be picking it up myself. But moving on to our number 2 spot. Now, this one, it was smack dab in the center of my screen when I first opened Kickstarter. Leviathan Wilds gives me sort of a more cartoony feel of Shadows of the Colossus. So it has, and instead of fighting them, you and your team is a solo or co-op boss battling board game about climbing and saving massive creatures. Using a spiral-bound scenario book, players climb, jump, and glide throughout 15 unique Leviathans, each with its own map and special rules. So in the lore, long ago the Leviathans lost their minds and tore apart the world. After generations of struggle, we learned to heal them. And these leviathans are plagued by what looks like some sort of crystalline, maleficence of some sort. And your goal is to go and climb up this giant leviathan and break apart the crystalline disease that they're being afflicted by.
Yeah,
Uh,
it looks really neat. The really and this is something that I've mentioned a couple times already in this little forecast that we're doing today. The manufacturing quality just looks like it stepped up a ridiculous notch. Again, I'm going to mention something like Spirit Island just because it does kind of have a little bit of that almost otherworldly kind of earthen kind of feel, but it
yep.
has some really, really beautiful artwork, and it looks like it's going to be a nice small kind of, or not small, but medium-sized board game box. You're not going to get, a million things that you need to deal with. The meeples in particular are something that I would honestly buy the game just for the meeples, but
Yeah.
they're just super cool, and everything is like really nice and presented just beautifully in this game. I think that if you are in the market for a what looks to be kind of a cooperative game, which
Mhm.
they don't come along that often, it looks like it's going to be a slammer. And honestly, this one is a really great deal at $59.
Exactly. And this is from a lot of some really well known. The designers have made some really well known products as well. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Wrath of the Lich King, World of Warcraft, Pandemic Legacy, and Star Wars Rebellion. There's plenty of other games on there as well, but and other products as well. But these people know what they're doing. They got some again great art,
It has quite the
but
pedigree.
and that pedigree definitely shows. Over $100,000 pledged out of their goal of 10K, and plenty of time left with 21 days to go. This one for sure
Yeah, I mean
on my list.
it's got just pretty much everything that I look for in a board game. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it's a co-op game that plays between 1 and 4 players, and that is basically my core group. That's what I play with,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exciting to see another game coming out in that kind of vein.
And that takes us to our number one spot. Typically, I try to focus mainly on board games. I know we talked about Ronin, which is a tabletop RPG, and I've given our number one spot this time to something that just kind of piqued my interest. It's called Outgunned, a cinematic action RPG, an action RPG cinematic role playing game by the Emmy Award winning authors of Household and Broken Compass.
Very cool.
Outgunned is a cinematic action RPG inspired by the classics of action and heist genre, from Die Hard to True Lies, passing through James Bond, Atomic Blonde, Kingsman, Ocean's 11, Hot Fuzz, and the latest John Wick. In Outgunned, you play as a group of heroes struggling against a villain to try and save the day. Always outnumbered, always outgunned.
No, this looks like it's got some pretty serious heat to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly interested in playing the commando, soldier, mercenary, and survivalist. It's just really cool that they kind of went through and found a way to kind of bring the real world into the role playing space. It's very hard to do that, and I think that they've done it really well here. Obviously, you can kind of check out their Kickstarter and see if it's for you, but I would say that it does have that kind of Max Payne feel, Tomb Raider,
Definitely.
honestly, even just a little bit of Just Cause. It kind of reminds me of that. So it's got some video game quirks to it. It's got some really neat dice systems kind of put into place, and I really like the character sheet. They have some really fun iconography on there, ranging from a revolver kind of magazine to a little cash piggy, and I think that it's a pretty smart way to represent some of this stuff on a character sheet.
14 days left. They're at over 150 right now. I bring up their $130,000 goal specifically because some fellow board game peripheral entrepreneurs, Alchemy, the guys over there, it looks like they're going to have a module available on Alchemy because they passed that goal, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you guys who haven't checked out the alchemy system yet, you definitely should do that. It's a really great way to kind of get together with your friends online. But I will say that Outgunned is looking like one of those games that's just gonna start a new legacy. I think that people are gonna have just a really good time. There's a whole bunch of digital goodies that are included with the pledge. There's a whole bunch of different ways to play the game. And again, if you're a DM that's out there and you're kind of tired of playing in a fantasy universe and you want to play in our world a little bit, this is something that might be able to appeal to you. Also, now I'm going to just go on a little tangent, promise not longer than a minute.
Along for the ride.
Usually in these real world board games, I don't really appreciate the gunplay. The gunplay typically doesn't translate very well into RPG systems. I feel like there's no threat. And in this game, they actually have figured out how to make that feel threatening and how it makes it feel like you are actually using the weapon systems that they're describing. So I think that that's pretty cool. Not to rag on, anything like the Cyberpunk RPG or, Shadowrun, but I always just kind of felt like guns just really don't have a place in the role-playing game world, and I guess I'm being proven wrong.
Yeah, and that's impressive to see, like you said. Seeing somebody innovate on something that obviously in the real world we all know, and it'd be very hard to do this game without guns. And so it will be impressive to see how they facilitate that. And I'm really excited to probably sit down, grab the core book, and play with my group, and just see what they think about it. We're always looking for some new RPG. Everybody loves 5e, but after you've played it for 10, 15 years, and they haven't come out with D&D 1 yet. You want something new. So something like this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And, maybe we can even do something on the podcast without guns someday. That could be really fun. So if you guys want to hear us do some role playing, or if you guys want to hear us, playing along with the game, I know that we've mentioned in the past potentially getting together with AJ. He's our head sound designer. We would love to, get some content out there for you guys. Just let us know if something that you actually would want to hear from us on. Otherwise, we're going to stay in our lane and continue doing these forecasts because honestly, I do enjoy them. So thank you, Nate, for having me on. As always, thank you to the Nate Keeper. And I am the Sad Skull, if you guys are unaware. My name is Adam, and thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for joining the Foreteller Forecast Top 5. Join our Discord.
Yeah, join the Discord, please.